Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, Mayor, you've got you're live, you're recording, and you've got 7 of your 8 council members, so you are set to go.
Great. Thank you very much, Andrew. Now, good evening, everyone. I'll glad to go ahead and call our meeting to order this evening. Yeah, first meeting of a new year, as remarkable as that might be, and glad we're at this point. Andrew has indicated that we've got 7 council members present electronically. Tracy, is that adequate for the minutes?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, thank you. Item 3 on our agenda is, or wait a minute, why don't we first begin our meeting with a moment of silence? And then could I ask Mr. Hampton to lead us in the pledge of the flag?
Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Greg. Now, item 3 on the agenda, each of you have a copy of the minutes from our last regularly scheduled meeting. If there are no corrections or additions, I'll entertain a motion if they be approved.
So moved.
Thank you, Willow.
Second.
Thank you, Tammy. Tammy, Todd, I heard Tammy before I saw your hand go up. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. The minutes are approved. Item 4 on our agenda, each council member should have received a copy of our latest check register. If you could indicate if you received that register by raising your hand. Thank you. Okay. Item 5 on our agenda is public comments. And Tracy, do we have public comments this evening?
We have John Douglas here. He would like to request about his event.
Well, we're glad to have John Douglas. John, good evening.
Good evening. Hopefully I'm coming through okay.
You are.
Great. Glad to see everyone this evening. On behalf of Scott County, Georgetown NAACP, I'm coming before you to request your approval for having the Martin Luther King March again this year. I know there's some concerns and we're planning on having a march. And by having a march, we're also requiring everyone that's going to participate to wear a mask during the march. And that we'll be scattered out a little bit wider than we normally are throughout the year, because we want to spread out as much as we can on the highway and keep away from each other as much as we can. Also, we're not going to be singing a lot this year. We're going to be walking together, and we're going to have a music play that they're going to sing songs or play songs during the time we march. So that way we won't have everybody trying to sing and breathe on each other as much as we can. And so we want to try to limit that. And so we're hoping that the council will look at that consideration and approve us to have the march again this year, starting at 4 o'clock, our normal route, starting at the Georgetown College Street, and then going from there around to Military, to Main, down to Broadway, and then back to College Street again and finish up that walk. That'll be the line we'd like to take, if that's in agreement with the council.
Good.
Mayor,
Thank
I'll
you.
make a motion to accept it.
Mayor, I'll second.
Great. Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Greg. It's a wonderful march. John, I hope the weather's cooperative this year.
I was going to y'all approve, then ask for help on that one.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure the council has much influence on that. Oh, goodness.
Plenty of prayer.
Yeah, indeed. All in favor, say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Good. John, anything else?
The only other thing I do hope for Mayor that everyone will be able to go to the city and council program afterwards at 5 o'clock at the First Baptist Church. It's going to be an outstanding speaker, and I hope you present some more information on that as we go forth through this meeting today. We're all having a speaker come in and be spread out in the church and try to have a good conversation with everybody, the ones who can. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council, for your support.
Mayor, quick question. I apologize, may have missed. Does it start, is it Gaddings Drive? Is that the drive there in front of Georgetown College that we're talking about?
We'll start right in
College
front of the Student Center.
Okay, gotcha.
David, there'll be a reception that the community can participate in. Again, mask up, and we'll try and be very careful, but there'll be an opportunity to interact with our speaker that we've brought in for the Martin Luther King Day program. Then the march is at 4, and then at 5 o'clock, there's the program at First Baptist Church on Lexington Road. They've been gracious enough to host it for us, where our speaker will be there. The program is fluid given our concerns with COVID, but we're going to do our best. John, I noticed in Fayette County, they're going to have the march, but they're going to do all the other events virtual.
Yes, sir.
We're going to do the march and attempt to be as safe as we can be with the meeting at 5 o'clock, and council is invited there. What we've learned, what I have learned over the last several years of working with John and Robbie Barber and others is I was guilty of traditionally thinking of this event as an NAACP event, or it was someone else's event, and we simply gave some assistance toward it. The correct story is that this is the community's event. City government, county government, Georgetown College, NAACP are all partners in this event. The NAACP has a breakfast that is their event. But on this particular celebration, this belongs to our community. So if you can join us, we'd love to have you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tracy, any other public comments?
No, sir, that's all.
All right, thank you. Under mayor's comments, just a couple of comments, please. John, I can strike off making my comments about the march and the event since we've already covered those. Couple of just really fun things that I can report to you tonight that really typify our community. One is to let you know that we've had another Eagle Scout complete a project, his Eagle Scout project out at UCON. Young man refinished the tea room out there. that's the second or third Eagle Scout that has helped us out there, and that's worked with Arlene. That's just good stuff, and I want you all to know about it. Also, Saturday, I had the opportunity Saturday morning to go out and celebrate with an extended family and Miss Genevieve Clark to celebrate her 100th birthday. And, if Miss Clark is watching, happy birthday again. If I could be that with it at my age of 70 that she is at 100, I would take the deal right now. Just a very dignified lady, and it was a joy to be there. So those are things that are going on in our community that I think are just, they're important for you to know about. This is our first meeting of the year. And as a result, it's kind of important, in my opinion, that we get started off on the right footing and have an opportunity to make this year just as productive as we possibly can. I want to thank all the council members for participating with me and Andrew on 7 different Zoom calls that we had with each individual council member. And that was so beneficial for me and Andrew to have that opportunity to have a one-on-one conversation with each of you. So I appreciate you all making that investment of time with us. What I can tell you is you all have very similar hopes and concerns about your community. All very different individual perspectives, but you share some very common hopes and concerns. And that to me is very gratifying and tells me that we have a real chance to be successful. Some of the things that we heard, I think almost unanimously or in a great majority, and it's our intention to listen to some of those messages and give you some idea of what this coming year will look like from our vantage point. I think this will be an important year for us to consolidate the efforts that have already been made by the council, to really evaluate all the changes that you've already put in place. And what we can tell you is that many of the steps that you've taken have generated more positive results than even what we first anticipated. So I think that will be positive financial news or encouraging financial news as we're able to get our next quarterly report. I would expect, due to those revenue projections or revenue outlooks, that we will be able to bring you a budget that continues the path that the council's been on with improvements in first responders as far as head count and an opportunity to make sure our salaries stay competitive. We think we'll be able to do that. And that's going to be my expectation as we work with our department heads, your all's committees, and the finance committee to craft what a budget will ultimately look like. I also think that it is time this year that we address the renovation needs of Georgetown City Hall. I've had an opportunity to mention this to each of you. And we think that, I believe that this is finally the time for us to undertake that very necessary capital improvement. And I say so for a variety of reasons, for a number of reasons that I'd like to make clear why I think this is the appropriate time. We know that our cash reserves have grown to something in excess of $22 million. That has rebounded in a very robust fashion, which gives us some confidence. Current revenues are performing at a level that we think we can satisfactorily address our current budget needs. We had the architectural study to evaluate City Hall for us done 3 years ago. And that report showed real needs, structural needs, exterior needs. There's even some safety concerns about the building. So we've had that report in hand for a period of time. But the council had other more pressing business that it had to take care of. And I think in the 3 years that we've had this report, the council has honored the priorities that we said were the most important, being public safety and making some important steps there. So I think you're now in a position to consider a capital expenditure of this type. We have other capital expenditures that are needed. We know that Old Oxford Pike, an extension of Lexus Way, even eventually another fire station. There are many capital needs that we have that we'll need to prioritize going forward. But I believe that we can start with this project that so desperately needs our attention to preserve a public asset and resource. To that end, we've asked the architects that did the original reporting for us and drew the original suggested renovation plans to give us more current cost estimates so we can begin talking about this in current terms rather than 3-year-old terms. And we were also very pleased with the timing of the city's acquisition of 514 South Broadway, the house down there on Broadway next to Garth School, next to the vacant lot. We think will serve as a very functional temporary city hall, and are looking at steps to make that building a little bit nicer and reflect the city's ownership of it as quickly as we can, at least developing plans that we can bring to the council for consideration. So I don't have specific dollar amounts or time frames, but I did think it appropriate to let you know that this was a priority that I would like for the city to pursue this year. I'm certain that this is a project that cannot be completed during my term in office, but it needs doing, and it will serve the public well, I think, for another 100 years. So those are some of the thoughts that I had about the current year, and after those, I'll move on to the printed mayor comments. I have an executive order appointing Jason Baird to the Georgetown Municipal Water and Sewer Service Board of Trustees, Board of Commissioners, excuse me. Is there a motion for approval?
Mayor, motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Willow. All in favor of that executive order, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Are there any opposed? Okay. Item B on the agenda is in very piecemeal fashion, council members, I am getting the Georgetown Human Rights Commission appointed. You appointed 2 members previously. I have 1 member for you tonight, an executive order appointing Lisa Thornton to the Georgetown Human Rights Commission. It would be my expectation to have the last 2 spots filled very quickly.
Motion, Mayor.
I heard Connie and I saw Tammy. So there you go. I'll let I'll let the clerk figure that one out. If there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Thank you. Item C on our agenda is a resolution honoring Kentucky Humanities Council. Tracy, do you have that resolution?
I do.
Good.
Resolution of the City of Georgetown honoring Kentucky Humanities for 50 years of service to the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Whereas Kentucky Humanities, an independent nonprofit affiliate organization of the National Endowment for the Humanities, was established in 1972. And whereas Kentucky Humanities is devoted to bringing humanities programs to communities across the Commonwealth and recognizes the need to build civic engagement, promote literacy for all ages, honor the history, literature, philosophy, and values by which we live in all Kentucky towns, including the City of Georgetown. And whereas Kentucky Humanities is dedicated to telling Kentucky's story, because we can all learn from the stories of others that when taken together shape our communities, our counties, our regions, and our unique Kentucky cultural and heritage. And whereas Kentucky Humanities has made more than 2,600 grants to organizations in Kentucky totaling more than 9,050 years of service to the Commonwealth. And whereas Kentucky Humanities has funded more than 15,100 events since we began tracking the events in 1987 throughout the state of Kentucky, including Speakers Bureau presentations, Kentucky Chautauqua dramas, Kentucky Reads book discussions, and other special events. And whereas Kentucky Humanities has brought 10 Smithsonian traveling exhibitions to Kentucky for a total of 64 week tours, reaching a reported audience of more than 77,000. And whereas Kentucky Humanities has published more than 48 issues of Kentucky Humanities magazine and distributed more than 565,000 copies to the citizens of Kentucky. And whereas Kentucky Humanities has published 14 new books for new readers with the University Press of Kentucky and has issued more than 75,000 copies of these books to adult emergent readers in Kentucky. And whereas Kentucky Humanities has assumed the management of the Kentucky Book Fair, now called the Kentucky Book Festival, the longest running and premier book festival in the state of Kentucky, now celebrating its 40th year. And whereas Kentucky Humanities has sponsored more than 280 prime time family reading programs, reaching more than 4,200 families and more than 14,000 people in the Commonwealth. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Georgetown recognizes and congratulates Kentucky Humanities for 50 years of service to the Commonwealth of Kentucky and Scott County.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
Motion, Mayor.
Thank you, Tammy and Craig. Was that what I heard? Okay. Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That carries. Thank you. I know that was a very wordy proclamation or resolution, but those folks do make a big impact on our quality of life in Kentucky. Those Chautauqua performances are just remarkable. If you've gotten to see any of the characters, our very own George McGee has played a couple of those characters from Georgetown College and just does an amazing job with them. Earlier, folks, I mentioned the great work that an Eagle Scout did doing a project out at UCON, and I failed to mention the young man's name. But I want to make sure the council knows that Matt Lovell was working on his Eagle Scout. Okay, item 7 on our agenda under GMWSS. Chase.
Good evening. Georgetown Municipal has one item on the agenda for your consideration tonight. It's related to the wastewater treatment plant 1 upgrade and expansion. I think it's appropriate to start the discussion with an update on where we are in the project, which I'm think that you all will want to hear, and then I'd like to discuss the change order. I did request that an executive session be included on the agenda tonight in case any discussion or questions lead to the topic of pending litigation. And If any questions or discussion do lead us there, I just, as I've previously spoken with Devin, I just ask that the city attorney advise us on whether we need to enter into executive session. Again, it'd be under pending litigation. As council is aware, design engineer made Georgetown Municipal aware of design deficiencies to our original structural design back in September of 21. Contractor was issued a stop work order shortly thereafter, and the design engineer has been working to check the entire design and redesign any structures that are where redesign is necessary. Concurrently, Georgetown Municipal retained an independent third-party structural engineer, a forensic specialist, to review the original design and the redesign structures on the project. So since November, Georgetown Municipal, GRW, our original design engineer, and WJE, our forensic specialist, we've been working through a redesign and review process where GRW will redesign a structure or a component of a structure, then they send it to us, Georgetown Municipal and WJE, for a peer review. Design's approved, it's submitted to the contractor to get the process starting on resubmittals, change order where required, and getting contractor back to work on that component. This is ongoing, it's collaborative, but it's unfortunately very slow process. So we're still working our way through there. One of the first items of concern is what happens to the structures that are already constructed by the contractor. I mean, they've been working for 7 months. So contractor completed work on 2 slabs and multiple walls on 2 of our major structure. That slab, the slab of the SBR, that's the main treatment structure. We've determined with concurrence of our third-party engineer that we will utilize that slab. We will have to add to it, supplement its strength. However, we will use it. That doesn't have to come out. However, at this point, we know without a doubt that the slab on our pre-treatment building, as well as all of the walls that are currently out there, have been constructed by the contractor. If you've been out there, see it, all of those walls will have to be removed and disposed of off-site, unfortunately, cannot be used. So tonight I have the first construction change order. It's in the form of a work directive for council consideration. The change order is for demolishing the SBR walls that have already been constructed, and this cost associated with the change order is $180,594. So now that this is a place I'd like to discuss how we are going to seek reimbursement from the design engineer related to these type costs, to the damages that were resulting from the structural design deficiencies. And as I've advised our Board of Commissioners, we are not going to know the true and total cost of the damages that have resulted from these structural deficiencies for a number of months. That's just the nature of this. Once the redesign is complete, the contractor has to reprice everything. We have to negotiate that. All of that work's going to still take a number of months. If we want to wait to know that total cost before returning to work, that's going to delay the project indefinitely. The other option is we can absorb these costs ourselves in order to get the project back moving forward and then seek the reimbursement from the design engineer after the fact. I don't like either option, and I apologize that we're in this situation. However, at this point, I think the most important priority is to get the contractor back to work and move forward. It's, in my opinion, the less of 2 evils. And then after the fact, we will seek damages, reimbursement for those damages later. When I say later, we're doing that currently through the legal process that's we're being advised by counsel. Again, that process is going to take time that we don't have right now at the treatment plant. It's imperative that we get back to work. I hate to say this, I'm embarrassed to say this. We're going to have to worry about the damages later. Change order for council consideration tonight is 100% attributable to GRW and the design flaw. There's no part of this that anybody else can claim is this is the responsibility of any other party, not the contractor, not Georgetown Municipal. It's 100% their responsibility. We're seeking full reimbursement for this cost from the design engineer. And this is going to be the first of many work directives and resulting change orders like this that I'm going to have to ask the board and council to consider before, as I said, before we know those damages or before we've actually received payment for those damages. Just generally, we're not waiting for a full redesign. As soon as part of this process, as soon as we get a component for a redesign, whether it's a slab, whether it's a wall, whether it's one whole structure, as soon as we get that, we're going to bring it to you all for approval so we can get the contractor moving. That's the goal. This is, I'm living this nightmare scenario. It's unthinkable. It's delayed the project. We're going to have to go through this process and it's painful. I'll say this, what I can promise is at no point will we sacrifice quality on the final product. When the dust settles from everything, we will have a state-of-the-art facility. It's going to serve the community for years. But for now, we're going to do this piece by piece as quickly as we can. And we will bring you those pieces as soon as we get them in order to save time. That's the goal. So again, you have this first change order for $180,594 tonight. That's for consideration. And at this point, I'll stop talking and hear your questions, concerns, whatever you'd like to discuss.
Chase, we're actually pleased to be able to be at this point, frankly, and delighted to bring you the news that the large slab can be utilized. We were prepared for the walls to be demolished, and we also knew that we would be asked to step forward and expose ourselves to some financial risk to get this project back on time track as quickly as we can. In an ideal environment, we could wait for the answers that Chase has mentioned, a more definitive situation for the council. We do not have that luxury, and we will not have that luxury. We have a lot riding on completing this plant, and we have to take this step. We'll have to take multiple steps like this before we get a definitive answer that I'm convinced will favor us, and we'll have a very good possibility of being made whole. However, we are going first, and we are taking a risk. It is a very considered conclusion with Chase and his board chair, and as much collaboration as we can have, that the lesser evil is to proceed as Chase has suggested.
Mayor, can I ask a quick question, maybe make a quick comment? And I agree with everything that you said, and I certainly understand the position that Chase is in, and obviously the position that we're in terms of having to make a decision like this. And I've been thinking about it a little bit, and you might say that we're beyond the point of return, and that is obviously the case. But even if every inch of concrete had to be removed, this wastewater treatment plant is going back in that location. It's not like there's an option B or an option C. I mean, this is where it's going. So Chase, I know it's a whole negative situation, but the mayor's right. It could have been a lot worse. And there's parts of it that are being salvaged, and work is getting ready to start back again. So I guess the one question I do have in regards to like this invoice, the $185,000, you said you're going to submit that for reimbursement. Do we have some indication how positive that response is going to be? I know that you all have had discussions, and anyway, I guess what are your thoughts, or what can you say in this situation?
I would say at this point, obvious, one of the first questions that I actually received response from council today is, when do I submit this? As far as, hey, we're seeking repayment here, and I didn't know if we would wait and submit everything at once or submit piece by piece. And I've been advised that we will submit piece by piece immediately as we know the expenses that are attributable to the design deficiencies. So we will submit this immediately as soon as we are invoiced from the contractor when they complete the work. As far as whether it is going to be favorably received and paid, I don't know the answer to that question. There's no argument, there's no question that this is 100% attributable to GRW. There's no disputing that, but I can't answer if they will reimburse immediately or not.
Okay, well, we'll know. I don't know if we'll know by the next council meeting, but we'll know by the second council meeting that we have. And this is going to be an ongoing event.
This is correct. This is going to be the process for every expenditure, every change order related to the structural design. I'm probably going to be bringing it to you for your consideration before I know the end game.
And Chase, there's two slabs. The largest slab is being salvaged, but the other smaller slab, will there only be two slabs when the project is complete, or how many slabs will there be in total?
Well, keep in mind there's 16 structures on the project. There's 7 structures that we believe were affected, and of those, some essentially every part will have a slab, but these are the 2 that had already been started. So Judy Construction had already started work. These are the only 2 that they had physically started pouring concrete, placing steel and pouring concrete. They've started excavation on other parts, but this is the only part where there's concrete and steel in the ground.
Okay. And then as far as the walls go, are we talking about 4 walls, or?
It's difficult to describe because of how the main SBR structure is set up. It's a series of chambers, and I believe they have of the entire set of chambers, there's walls on partial completion of walls on, I think, two chambers, and it's just difficult to describe without going out there and looking at it. But I mean, it's a significant amount of wall that is going to be removed. I probably can't give you an accurate percentage of that on the structure right now, but it's a significant amount. I mean, I'm not going to say that it's not even half of the walls on the structure. It's probably a quarter of the wall linear footage or less, but it's still a significant amount of work that will have to be removed and started over.
Okay.
So I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we know if what's happened is covered by their insurance? Do we know that they're solvent for what we might anticipate being the entire cost of these reparations?
That's a good question. And their errors and omissions policy is totaled at $5 million. That is the exposure of the liability insurance company for this policy. And whatever goes over that, we will be seeking directly from GRW. And what the total cost will be, I don't know at this point. I don't know if it will be we will be able to seek that entire amount from just the insurance, or whether GRW will have to be responsible on top of the insurance policy.
Okay, thank you.
Chase, I have a question for you, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
I was going to ask the same questions that David and Willow just asked, but is GRW still cooperating and everything? And how do you see the outlook for that?
GRW is still our engineer of record, and we are working through this process. It's going slower than I would like, but the collaborative effort between Georgetown Municipal, GRW, and a third-party engineer, I think it is going as well, if not better than expected. It's going as well as I expected, if not better. But again, it is a slow process, slower than I anticipated. I mean, we were made aware of this in early September, and we are still working on the redesign effort. I would not have thought that it would have taken this long, but that's just where we are. We're pushing as much as we can, but at this point, I'd rather get it right this time than hurry and get it wrong. So very difficult situation for GRW. And so I will say, under the circumstances, we're still working together, and I hope that's what remains. I think that if that relationship deteriorates, if we cannot hold that relationship together, this situation only gets worse.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chase. Are there any other questions for Chase? We thought that this explanation could be adequate given the fact that we anticipated this point in this process. It's unfortunate, but we anticipated that we would be at this point. So I told Chase I did not think that an executive session was necessary now. There will be later. We're glad to do that for you, but I think you have enough information, and you know what the council's being asked to do, and that you'll be asked to do this repeatedly in the future until this is completely resolved. And with that, I would ask if there's a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion for approval.
Thank you, David.
Second.
Thank you, Connie. Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any other questions for Chase? Yes.
Yes.
Go
And
ahead,
I'm
Mark.
sorry to come in at the last minute. I do have a question
Okay.
for Chase. Chase, going back, if we hadn't run into this issue, best case scenario, can you tell us again, if everything had gone as perfectly as it could go, what was the anticipated finish date for the entire project?
There would be, as contracted, there were two major project milestones. First was beneficial occupancy, what we defined. That is when we could receive new flow to the plant. That's the date that everybody cares about. That was December of 2023. Then additional work such as final grading, restoration, painting, fences, things of that nature that are not critical to operation of the new plant, that went into, I believe, the third quarter of 2024. So they had, I want to say, 9 months additional just to finish up punch list items, and again, non-critical work. But December of 23, I think, is the date that you were looking for, and that milestone was noted as beneficial occupancy.
And thank you for that. So I guess the last question would be, if we don't move forward and take the steps that you're asking us to take, and we take the wait and see approach until the very end, how long does that delay if we don't act? How long does that project?
Unfortunately, I can't answer how long this delay, how much time this delay is going to cost us at this point, whether we whether we wait on all of the redesign, all of the repricing, all of the whatever, however we settle the costs and the damages, however, in the end that is settled out. I don't know the answer, but I could say it would be months, if not years. By moving forward in this manner right now, I cannot offer you a revised schedule for that and a revised date for beneficial occupancy yet, but I can tell you that moving forward now, component by component, it's going to be a shorter delay than waiting. That's the best I can answer your question at this time.
Mayor, I got one more quick question I just thought of, and it might be kind of minimal, but Chase, is Judy Construction doing the demolition, and will that material get recycled on site? Will they grind it and reuse it in, I don't know, foundations or roads or whatever the case may be?
The demolition that we've you have the work directive tonight for the walls. At the next meeting, you will have the same type thing, the same type work directive for the demolition of the pretreatment slab. We did ask Judy to consider, they are performing the work. It'll be a subcontractor, obviously, with that specializes in demo, but it will be part of their contract. We asked them to look at whether it was cheaper to demo and dispose of that material, the steel, the concrete offsite, or demo it, break it down, and use it on site. And it was far cheaper to dispose offsite.
All right, thanks.
One more question.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have costs that can somewhat be calculated, not based on the structure and the demolition, but on the delay? What the delay itself might cost the city?
Yes, ma'am. And there's a number of damages that we will be seeking, and damages resulting from schedule delays. Those will be factored in. How those are calculated, I don't really know at this time, but the contractor is keeping track of delay time, because the contractor, since early September, they've had equipment sitting out on the site that's not been utilized. They've had formwork, concrete formwork sitting there. There's a delay for those pieces sitting on site, not being used.
Absolutely.
So related to time delays, if it delays new connections within the city, there will be discussion there. That is a cost. How we calculate it, I'm not sure at present time.
Okay.
Well, in fact,
a lot of unknowns.
There are.
In my opinion, in circumstances like this, the greatest cost are the ones that are the most difficult to calculate.
Mm-hmm.
And those are lost momentum. Economic development opportunities that might have been considered and might have contacted Georgetown, but they saw on the news that we didn't have sewer capacity.
Right.
We can't calculate lost momentum and lost opportunities, but we know they are a cost of this that we can't afford 1 minute longer than we have to.
I think that those type costs, Devin can probably advise better, but I'm sure that that our attorney, as well as GRWs, that will be something that they will know how to advise us on how we put a dollar figure to those type damages and how that's negotiated. But I at this time, I don't know the answer on exactly how that will go.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all. Great questions. Any other questions before we call the vote? Did we get a motion in a second? It's been a while.
Yes.
We did do that. Thank you, Dave. Okay. At this point, if there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. Chase, that's a really important answer that you have
Yes, thank
for
you.
your strategy moving forward, and thank you.
Appreciate it.
Do you have anything else for the council tonight, Chase?
No, sir.
Okay. Item 8 on our agenda under city attorney is second reading of an annexation ordinance for Old Oxford Road. Sponsors Mr. Hampton and Ms. Mitchell. Tracy?
An ordinance annexing into the city of Georgetown certain real property containing approximately 28.70 plus or minus acres located at or around 1202 Old Oxford Road in Scott County, Kentucky. Summary. 1. Annexes into Georgetown city limits by written consent of the property owner in accordance with KRS 81A.412, approximately 28.70 plus or minus acres of property located at or around 1202 Old Oxford Road in Scott County, Kentucky. 2. Provides for repeal of inconsistent laws, severability of provisions, and an effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in City Clerk's Office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Publicly introduced and read for the first time December 13th, 2021. Publicly read the second time January 13th, 2022.
Thank you. That is second reading of the ordinance. So is there a motion for approval?
So move.
Thank you, Willow. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tammy. Any discussion?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, Mark.
Couple questions. I know we're going to be voting on 2 zone changes and 2 annexations tonight. And I've got the same questions on both properties. And I'm not sure if there's anybody from P&Z on our call tonight. And if there's not, I didn't know if you or Devin could answer just a couple quick yes or no questions.
Devin and I will do our best. We're because our meeting is rescheduled tonight, we're in conflict with the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. So they just couldn't be here.
Okay. Well, just a couple quick questions, several questions on, and I didn't know where to start, but I thought I would do this before we put on the first annexation. Both properties that we're going to be voting on tonight, just making sure that they fall within the comprehensive plan. Or do we know the answer to that? Just to make sure.
Yes, the staff report indicates that both are.
Great.
For those that are either watching this for the first time tonight or haven't read the agenda that we have and the documents, the planning and zoning staff recommended for both of these properties that
yes,
they approved. Okay. And then the planning and zoning.
Yes, sir. The staff recommended their approval and commission agreed.
Okay. Thank you.
Those are good process questions, Mark. That those steps, the council does not get this stuff without a lot of consideration already having been given to it. And then the council has the benefit of a very extensive public record that's been created by the Planning Commission. And then the staff reports that you receive are very thorough. So Mark's correct. The public doesn't see some of the documentation that the council has available to it, but it's very thorough. So thank you for the opportunity to make that point.
Yeah, and one point to note, you'll note on this one, the staff report included a recommendation that it be postponed pending a traffic study, which that ultimately occurred and was satisfied. So you'll note in the staff recommendation that it was contingent on that, but the traffic study is included in your packet. If it wasn't in tonight's, it might have just been in last packet for first reading, but that that condition was satisfied.
Thank you. Any other questions before we call the roll on this ordinance? Thank you. Tracy?
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Mr. Stone,
Yes.
Mr. Showalter,
Yes.
Mrs. Lesby Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Lesby,
Yes.
Mr. Hampton,
Yes.
Mrs. Hambrick,
Yes.
Thank you. That carries. Item B on our agenda related to the same property is second reading of a zone change ordinance. Tracy, would you read us a summary?
An ordinance changing the zoning classification of certain real property containing a total of approximately 28.70 plus or minus acres located at 1202 Old Oxford Road in the city of Georgetown, Scott County, Kentucky, from A1 to B4 for 9.94 acres and R2 for 18.76 acres. Summary: 1. Rezones approximately 28.70 plus or minus acres located at 1202 Old Oxford Road in the city of Georgetown, Scott County, Kentucky, from A1 agricultural to B4 commercial for 9.94 acres and R2 residential for 18.76 acres. 2. Provides for repeal of inconsistent laws, severability of provisions, and an effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Publicly introduced and read for the first time December 13th, 2021. Publicly read the second time January 13th, 2022.
Thank you, Tracy. Is there a motion for approval?
Motion, Mayor.
Thank you, Greg.
Second.
And a second from Connie. Thank you, Connie. If there are no questions on this one, we'll call the roll.
Mrs. Lesby Mitchell,
yes.
Mr. Hampton,
Yes.
Mrs. Hambrick,
Yes.
Mr. Lesby,
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Mr. Stone,
Yes.
Mr. Showalter.
Yes.
Thank you. That ordinance is passed. Item C on our agenda is second reading of an annexation ordinance for property on Paris Pike.
No,
I'm sorry?
are you ready?
Oh, yes, I'm ready. Go ahead.
An ordinance annexing into the city of Georgetown certain real property containing approximately 42.86 plus or minus acres located at or around 3520 Paris Pike in Scott County, Kentucky. Summary: 1. Annexes into Georgetown city limits by written consent of the property owner in accordance with KRS 81A.412, approximately 42.86 plus or minus acres of property located at or around 3520 Paris Pike in Scott County, Kentucky. 2. Provides for repeal of inconsistent laws, severability of provisions, and an effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Publicly introduced and read for the first time December 13th, 2021. Publicly read the second time January 13th, 2022.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
Motion.
Thank you, Tammy.
Second.
And thank you, Todd, for the second. Are there questions on this one since it is a different piece of property? Okay, Tracy?
Mrs. Hambrick,
Yes.
Mr. Hampton,
Yes.
Mr. Showalter,
Yes.
Mr. Stone,
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett,
Yes.
Mr. Lesby,
Yes.
Mrs. Lesby Mitchell.
Yes.
Thank you. That carries. Item D on our agenda is second reading of the zone change ordinance for the same property.
An ordinance changing the zone classification of certain real property containing a total of approximately 42.86 acres located at 3520 Paris Pike in the city of Georgetown, Scott County, Kentucky, A1 to R1C. Summary. 1. Rezones approximately 42.86 acres located at 3520 Paris Pike in the city of Georgetown, Scott County, Kentucky from A1 agricultural to R-1C residential. 2. Provides for repeal of inconsistent law, severability of provisions, and an effective date upon passage of publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the city clerk's office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Publicly introduced and read for the first time December 13th, 2021. Publicly read the second time January 13th, 2022.
Thank you, Tracy. Is there a motion for approval?
Motion, Mayor.
Thank you, Connie. Thank you, David. Motion's been made and seconded. If there are no questions, we'll call the roll.
Mrs. Hambrick?
Yes.
Mr. Hampton?
Yes.
Mr. Lesby?
Yes.
Mrs. Lesby Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Showalter?
Yes.
Mr. Stone? Mr. Stone? Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
I think Mr. Stone said yes.
He did say yes. I could read his lips. Thank you, Todd. That carries. Thank you all. And Tracy, thank you for a boatload of ordinance reading.
No problem.
But we're not done with you yet. Item E on our agenda is first reading of a zone change ordinance for Horseshoe Drive.
Ordinance changing the zoning classification of certain real property containing a total of approximately 0.716 acres located at 1106 Horseshoe Drive in the city of Georgetown, Scott County, Kentucky from R2 to B2. Summary. 1. Rezones approximately 0.716 acres located at 1106 Horseshoe Drive in the city of Georgetown, Scott County, Kentucky from R2 residential to B2 commercial. 2. Provides for repeal of inconsistent law, severability of provisions, and an effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the city clerk's office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Publicly introduced and read for the first time January 13th, 2022.
Thank you. That'll be first reading, and we would expect second reading at our next regularly scheduled meeting.
Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't know if council would have any questions on this one, but counsel for the applicant is on the call. So if anybody has a question on this one, he is here tonight in case anybody had anything. I wanted to give that opportunity in case they weren't present next meeting.
Great. Mr. Cato, thank you for signing on. I wasn't aware that was, I saw your name. I wasn't sure why you were here. Council, first reading, you don't vote tonight, but it's our opportunity to ask Mr. Cato any questions about the zone change, if you have any.
Yeah, go ahead, David.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask Mr. Cato, this is the property, it's out at Paris Pike and the bypass. And do you have any idea about what type of business you're talking about? Are you able to share that?
It's the property that is, if you're looking at the carriage house business, it's the property that's to the right of that. There's a residential house kind of set back away from the road a little bit. Right now, there's not anybody identified for this property. The main reason why we're in front of you with this application is this property was originally part of a larger tract. The rest of the tract was rezoned, we think, when it was brought in, when it was annexed to B2, and the owner thought that it was already B2 zone. We found out that it wasn't, so the application is really to bring this in line with the rest of that property. but there's not an end user identified. There's not any sort of proposed development at this time. If and when that happens, we'll go back to the planning commission and we'll have a development plan at that time.
Thank you.
Thank you. David?
No, Mayor, I was just going to kind of say or contribute to what Mr. Cato said. It's contiguous to existing B2 property. It's less than 3/4 of an acre, and I believe at one time they thought that it was already zone B2. So it seems extremely appropriate. It's obviously on a very busy road, which is the Paris Pike. Although it's called Horseshoe, it's just right there. So anyway, I just want to make those quick comments.
Sounds good. Thank you. Any other questions from Mr. Cato? I think we'll be in a good position to vote at our next meeting then. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir, Mr. Cato. Thank you for joining us. Item 9 on our agenda under city engineer, finally, ladies and gentlemen, is a resolution approving an amendment to our TAP grant agreement. For those council members who have been on here the longest, you remember us talking about our TAP grant. I think we received notice that we were successfully funded for this TAP grant 6 years ago. It's been a long time. This was our vision for West Main Street for improving the viaduct, which is the oldest masonry structure in Scott County, to improve the roadway over the viaduct and extend the green lamppost further out West Main Street. Some improvements that will really beautify downtown. We've struggled for several years on getting an arrangement with the Heritage Council concerning our repairs to the viaduct. We've reached that agreement. It costs more money, so we asked for more funding. We finally have the funding letter and we're ready to award a contract. I think it's actually going to be built this year. But this resolution approves us to go forward with that project.
Motion, Mayor.
Thank you, Connie.
Second.
Thanks, Greg. I saw Greg's hand come up anyway. If there are no questions there, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That carries. Under Human Resources, item 10, we have first reading of an amendment to the personnel ordinance to let us bring in the Violence Against Women Act police officer.
An ordinance amending section 2-111 of the Code of Ordinances to add one position of police officer to the police department. Summary: 1, amend section 2-11C of the Code of Ordinances to add one position of police officer to the police department. 2, provides for repeal, inconsistent ordinance, severability of provisions, and an effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the city clerk's office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Introduced and publicly read for the first time, January 13th, 2022.
Thank you. We would expect second reading of that at our next meeting. Item B on our agenda, we will not be taking up tonight. We had put this on your agenda because there was a federal deadline for us to adopt this. And we had guidance to go forward with that. That was, of course, subject to ruling by the United States Supreme Court. And the United States Supreme Court ruled this afternoon that they will not go forward with the mandate for large employers. In fact, they put a hold on that. So we were going to tell you tonight that we were going to wait on the Supreme Court ruling and guidance that came from that ruling. So we weren't going to ask you to act on it tonight anyway. But now we have that Supreme Court ruling and it renders mute for this point in time any consideration of item B. Item 11 under Police Department, we have Item A, a municipal order approving items for surplus. In fact, we have two municipal orders approving items and vehicles for surplus. I'm happy to take those together if the council wishes to. The vehicles are us kind of getting toward the end of the vehicles that we actually owned, the older, higher mileage vehicles that we've been kind of taking out of our fleet with our new enterprise fleet management program. So this is a part of that neatening up process.
Mayor, I'll make a motion for both.
Thank you, Todd.
Second, Mayor.
Thank you, Greg. If there's no questions there, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. Down to the point of council comments. Tammy, may I start with you?
Yes, sir. I would like to officially recognize the excellent work of the 911 EMT team. We needed them on New Year's Eve for a life-saving event at my home. And not only efficient and professional, they were kind and considerate. And we are blessed and honored to have them working for the city of Georgetown and the county of Scott County.
Thank you, Tammy. When that message is personal, it means so much. Thank you. Willow?
Yes. I've been in conversation with Eric, and we have talked at length about what I brought up at the last council meeting about emergency preparedness in light of Western Kentucky's awful situation with the tornadoes. And Eric, feel free to jump in if I'm leaving anything out or misrepresenting anything. But in Eric's conversation with Mr. Hennigan, it seems as though what we have on paper is more of an outline for emergency preparedness in different categories, but it's not streamlined such that it would be something that could be put in a manual and could be actionable. It seems like more of and it really hasn't. I think, Eric, you told me that the last time that it was formally reviewed was 2012. And today, after talking to Mr. Hennigan, you said that anytime you have a change in administrations, which we're going to have in a year, there would be an automatic review of it. So there may be, and Eric agrees, and he thinks Mr. Hennigan would be fine with cooperating with an overview of all of it, so that we could have something that could be put on a shelf and pulled out and be more actionable rather than simply, I think you said that it was more considerations and less actionable. Is that accurate, Eric?
Yeah, it's basically true. I mean, it's an outline of what to consider, what options exist out there in the event of those certain occurrences, depending on fire or natural disaster type deal. So I think what we're shooting for, and I think Mike wouldn't have a problem with it all, is more of a playbook instead of a outline or a little guidebook, but something that you can grab and actually perform functions with is what we're trying to achieve.
And so, Mayor, I'm wondering how we would go about. Eric thought that Mr. Hennigan would be amenable to having more people at least sit in and listen. Obviously, the emergency management people would be in charge of and configuring this, but it might be advantageous to have a larger task force or listening group or whatever you might want to call it, so that we would understand holistically how this is coming together and how it would be used.
Yeah, I think that really make sense, Willow. From what we've witnessed down there, we can't prepare enough. And just being good partners with our friends across the street, emergency management actually answers administratively to the county, even though it's an interlocal agreement that works collaboratively with all of our agencies. It'd be something that I'd be glad to discuss with Judge Covington, the idea of a task force of sorts that might look at this in more detail and give concerns of the community as opposed to just the voices they might be used to hearing.
Yeah, I think that would be something that I would be really interested in getting going. I don't think we can move on these things fast enough, actually.
I'd be glad to have that conversation with the judge and then get back with you and see what the next step might be.
That sounds great. Eric, thank you for all your work on this in the last couple of weeks.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Will. Anything else?
That's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Mark.
I'm glad you didn't ask me to follow Tammy because I don't know if I could have done it.
I know.
I know there's quite a few of us on this call that are very thankful for your outcome. And you are correct. To our first responders, including our 911 dispatchers, they're amazing. They really are. So thankful for your outcome. And I know we have one person not on the call tonight, and that person remains in my thoughts and prayers at the present time as well. So thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Mark. David?
I wasn't going to say anything, but I'll follow Mark and say, Tammy, we're glad that everything worked out as well as it did. And if you haven't been in that experience, then you're fortunate. And I have been in that experience a couple times myself, and they're outstanding to deal with. We're blessed to have all the emergency responders that we have in this community. They're just truly outstanding from top to bottom. And we've got some folks back with us tonight. I know Devin's back with us, and I think we got a good report on Karen as well, and Willow. So we've all kind of been through some challenges, I think, but fortunately we're all hanging in there. So anyway, that's it, Mayor.
Thank you, David. Connie.
Hey, Mayor, it's good to see everybody, and it's good to just get back into the groove of everything. I know it's been kind of a crazy week for everybody, and I'm also thankful for Tammy and for the outcome. And we do have some awesome people that are our first responders here in Georgetown. I'm very grateful for them. I've had to experience that as well. And it's just really good to just see everybody and looking forward to what we're going to accomplish this year. Thank you.
Yeah. It's amazing when you're in that particular moment of need, there's nothing more important in the world to you. It's pretty profound. Greg?
Just like to echo David and Mark's comments earlier, and Tammy, you're in my thoughts and prayers, and along with Karen and everybody here on the council. Looking forward to the new year, and I think we had a successful year last year, and I think we'll achieve a lot this year. So thanks everyone.
Thank you, Greg. Todd.
Yes, I talked to Tammy earlier, and I'm very glad to hear of the positive progress with her family, and just want to thank Robert Bruin and his crew for last weekend and the way they worked. A lot of state roads didn't get as clean as our city streets did, so not only Robert, but Chief Bossy and his crew, and Chief Colson and his crew. We have some really great departments that work very hard, especially when situations like that hit. And I'm not trying to downplay anything with Willow, but anytime a situation happens like that, you can train for a lot of things, but when a disaster hits, the playbook goes out the window and you're literally flying by the seat of your pants. So no matter what playbook they put together, they've got to train on it and make it second nature, because you won't, with a situation like that hits, you won't have time to look at a playbook. It's going to be go, go, go. And then you sit back and hope for the best that you did the right thing. So training is what's the key on all that. So, and our bunch does a really great job in training. So can't say enough about them.
Thank you, Todd. Boy, Todd, I'm really glad you mentioned Public Works and all of our employees' response to the snow. It's fun when, as an elected official over here, we get complimented when compared to other communities, and that's a tribute to our Public Works Department. And thank you for mentioning that.
And one other group I almost forgot, because they take a brunt of phone calls, just like what Tammy went through, is the dispatch center, because in all the snow, they get all the questions about roads being opened, and they still have to deal with everything else that's going on. So can't forget those fine folks as well.
Great. Thank you. Is there anything else to come before the council this evening? If not, thank you all very much. A great first meeting of the year, and look forward to the rest of the year with you. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Care.